The United States President Donald Trump has come up with a peace plan for Gaza. US President Donald Trump has unveiled one of the most ambitious peace proposals yet for Gaza as the devastating war nears its second anniversary, 2 years on. Gaza is still under attack and Israeli hostages still held by Hamas. The comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict is a 20-point roadmap drafted over 8 months, we hear, by the Trump regime and announced after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Donald Trump in Washington a few days ago. In fact, the plan's central demand here is that Hamas must disarm and surrender. Fighters who lay down their arms will be given amnesty. Hamas, if they want to stay in Gaza, they can stay with their arms down. If they want to leave Gaza, they can leave, and Israel will ensure a safe passage. And they can leave to countries like Jordan, Egypt, Qatar, or Iran. But given Hamas has ruled Gaza for nearly 2 decades, this seems to be the toughest challenge. Will Hamas accept this to give up complete power? Now, also to secure Gaza, the plan proposes an International Stabilization Force backed by the US, Arab and global partners. This force will train vetted Palestinian police, cut off weapons supplies and ensure aid flows seamlessly into Gaza. Israel has pledged it will not occupy or annex Gaza and will ensure that they will aid and push all the aid that has to go to Gaza seamlessly. Now, Israel has pledged that they will not occupy or annex Gaza and will pull its troops out of Gaza step by step as the region is demilitarized. In fact, on governance particularly, Trump calls this the day after plan. In fact, speaking about who is going to be governing Gaza post that. Trump, in his day after plan, as he calls it, a technocratic Palestinian committee will be formed, made up of local professionals and international experts. They will be running all public services in Gaza. And then an oversight board will be formulated, which is called the Board of Peace. This is basically to revive and uplift Gaza. And that will be headed by Trump himself. As per the 20-point peace plan, Trump himself will be overseeing this body that will uplift and rejuvenate Gaza entirely. And along with Trump, there are few leaders like UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, who are going to be part of this board, almost governing Gaza or overseeing its upliftment. Among others, few other names are yet to be mentioned, but Tony Blair's name we know now. The plan also guarantees humanitarian relief, water, electricity, sewage systems, hospitals, bakeries, roads, basically a full town, a full city, or a full, like Gaza was earlier, maybe a lot better. It will be improved, there will be facilities, and they want to revive Gaza entirely. That's as part of the peace plan that Trump has proposed. And all the aid to begin with will be distributed through the UN and the Red Crescent. Another major provision is the hostage exchange. In fact, this is really the clincher. Within 72 hours of this peace 20-point agenda accepted by both sides, Israel and Hamas, there will be release of hostages and exchange of all those prisoners. Hamas must release all 48 remaining hostages that they have held. In return, Israel will free 250 lifetime prisoners and 1,700 Palestinians who were detained after October 7th massacre, including women and children. So on both sides, there will be release of people, hostages on one side and prisoners that Israel held for many years and particularly after October 7th. Crucially, Trump has given Hamas just 3 to 4 days time now to respond to this, warning if at all they do not accept it, then Hamas will see a very sad end. Palestinian Authority, in the meanwhile, has welcomed the plan, while Hamas says it's still reviewing it. 8 Arab and Muslim nations, that includes Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, have all welcomed Trump's move, along with China and Russia. If this really succeeds, then this deal could really reshape Gaza's future and also boost Trump's own legacy. Possible peace prize in the offing for Trump, much like what the Oslo Accords once did. All right, let me bring in Dr. Zakir Hussain, Middle East expert. We also have Lev Aran, Israeli columnist and journalist, live from Haifa, and Eli Peeps, Director, International Relations, Israel Defense and Security Forum. Thank you very much, three of you, for joining us here. Let me bring in fact, Ellie, to give us a little sense on what you think is the 20-point peace plan that Trump has proposed to bring peace within that region. Israel has welcomed it, but still not very happy with the Palestinian state. That's not part of the 20-point agenda, but nonetheless, how do you welcome it?
Yeah, I think it is. Thank you very much for having me. I would say I think this is an excellent plan. I would say that it is essentially a Hamas surrender without using those words. Israel is able to achieve all of its war goals: the destruction of Hamas, the release of all hostages, dead or alive, within 72 hours, all at one time, not one by one. A demilitarized Gaza, Israeli security control over the Gaza Strip, and the creation of a new civil administration that excludes Hamas and, importantly, also excludes the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is involved, but only when they do significant reforms, which throughout their entire existence, they have not only resisted doing, but they are built on never doing and never accomplishing. So this is kind of like a red herring. The Palestinian Authority is not going to have any kind of real control in any future control over Gaza. They're just included to give their support, which is something that is important both for President Trump, it's important for Qatar, and from a Palestinian Authority perspective, it allows them to put the nail in the Hamas coffin, which has been their primary rival of control of the Palestinian people.
You know, let's also bring in Lev Aran. Lev, do you believe, or is it realistic for us to believe that Hamas will actually lay down their arms? Will they really fully disarm and surrender? Is this a realistic plan in your view?
Hamas holds a sticky wicket because if they leave Gaza, they surrender. They promise not to surrender. On the other hand, they don't really know who they are because both Turkey and Qatar are part of the plan. So in a way, if until now they could like play between Qatar and US, between Qatar and Egypt and so on, now they are quite alone. So in this sense, maybe they have more incentive to say yes than ever before.
If I could bring in Zakir Naik on that. Zakir, we're looking at most of the Middle Eastern countries who've accepted this plan. There are some talks around how Trump has business interests in many of the Middle Eastern countries. Trump's son-in-law is right now doing business with Qatar, with Saudi and whatnot. So in that sense, it almost appears as if all the countries, the Middle Eastern countries at this point, are swinging with Trump. They're basically going with Trump on this. Though the 20-point peace plan, most of the pointers in that plan certainly seems like Gaza will see finally the light of day, that the war will end and Gaza will be revived. But is there any skepticism that you have?
Basically, whenever Prime Minister Netanyahu comes back from White House, he brings more death and destruction. And I think I see this document as a surrender document, as a force putting gun on their head to surrender. And this is nothing but an extension of the deal of the century. And I feel that if even Hamas accepts this, it accepts because of the people of Gaza who have suffered too much, while the same Arab countries which are supporting, they have not taken any step to stop this for the last 700 days or more than that. And now they are complicit totally with America and Netanyahu to end this problem, while the people of Palestine has got nothing because they are not represented anywhere. Their will and their things are not considered, not in the International Stabilization Force, not in the transition government, not in converting the city into miracle cities, which is nothing but, again, revision of building Rivera, in other words. And President Trump said that he wants to bring peace of 2,000 years old conflict. It means that they are working on a messianic agenda. And I don't think that this is a very good plan. And I again repeat, if Hamas accepts, this accept because of the suffering of its own people. Otherwise, all the Gulf countries shamelessly complicit with this plan.
But don't you think peace in the region is what is really needed at this point? And if Trump, even if it, okay, we know that there's lack of trust when it comes to America, Trump particularly. But if Trump has laid it down in writing that this is how it's going to be and this is how it should be followed, why won't you believe that it will go as per plan?
Look, Trump has set such a politics in the world that if somebody trusts Trump, it means he is deceiving himself. No. He has nowhere, he only understands the language of force and power, which only Putin has showed him and China has showed him. He appointed Qatar to negotiate open office, and he failed to protect, and even he gave carte blanche to Netanyahu to attack Qatar. And shamelessly, Qatar is beseeching with Trump and Netanyahu. So if anybody in the world is going to believe in the words of Trump, it is the mistake of that person or that country or that group. Because we all know very well about Trump.
Don't you think there is no other option but to believe? Now, if you're speaking of belief,
no,
then there's no other option but to believe and have faith.
No.
And go forward.
He is trying to threat us, threat the people of Gaza. And so far, what I again repeat, if Hamas accepts, it means he accepts because of their suffering of the people, and he is not going to end the problem. Hamas and other groups will re-emerge, and also Netanyahu and Israel's hardline supporters have no intention to end the problem, because still Smotrich and others are talking about occupation of Gaza and selling the land to the people and building Rivera and all these things. So this issue is being a total surrender.
Lev smiles at that. Why do you think it's humorous, Lev? The question is, will Israel really, as per a commitment, withdraw from Gaza completely when they see the region stabilize? Because past history and record does not suggest that Israel has lived up to its word.
Look, I'm smiling because for the right-wing parties within the Netanyahu coalition, it was like you had the feeling that they're in a funeral today. They were not celebrating. They felt that we lost the war and we did not get the total victory that we promised to the Israelis and so on. And maybe they should listen to Dr. Hussein and see how the situation looks from the other side. I think people should know that Israel and India, we have army service is compulsory, is mandatory. Everybody has to go to the army. And for Israel is the appetite to go and fight in Gaza, if we have any other choice, is almost zero. So the idea that we will go and enter Gaza for any occupation, if we don't feel that we are threatened by Hamas, I think it is almost illogical. Because for Israel, for most Israelis, Gaza is a swamp. Gaza is a place that we have to fight the Hamas terrorists because we have no other choice. If this Trump plan gives us a different choice of, let's say, of technocratic government, of course, most Israelis will have no appetite to send their children, to their daughters and sons to Gaza. I have no doubt about it.
Trump being the head of the Board of Peace. Now, that's another area that people are skeptical of, saying this. Remember, Trump had released an AI video where it shows his statue in Gaza. It showed the whole strip as if he wanted to turn it into Las Vegas, something on those lines. So, for long-term peace, Trump heading that Board of Peace seems a little bit of a misfit. Eli, would you want to speak on that?
Yeah, but before I do want to also take issue with Dr. Hussein's comment about the only reason why Hamas would accept the deal is because of their empathy for the people of Gaza that they have led to this disaster and catastrophe. The reality is quite the opposite. They could have done that anytime over the last 2 years. The only reason why Hamas would accept this offer is because of Qatar, and not really because Qatar, who had been their big brother, who had been financing them, Qatar has now abandoned them. And they understand right now that they have absolutely no support, and there is nothing to prevent Israel from attacking them and from wiping them out. So either they will be wiped out by Israel's attack on the ground, or they could sort of control their funeral. They could leave, they could get amnesty, but Qatar has decided that they value their relationship with the United States of America and President Trump, the head of the new Board of Peace, much more than they value their relationship with Hamas. And I think President Trump has been undervalued and not understood how much he was able to bring peace. Abraham Accords, nobody thought that was possible, but he achieved it, and it's withstood 5 years, including 2 years of war, despite the fact that a number of European countries downgraded their relation with Israel. The UAE and Bahrain have not. They understand that peace, while people laughed at it because it was brokered by Trump and by Jared Kushner, who had business relationships in that region, the reality is, despite the wars that's been going on, the Gulf countries value their relationship with Israel almost as much as Israel values a relationship with them. And you can see even just a couple of days ago when Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke at the UN, one of the heads of state that spoke alongside and was very complimentary of Israel was Indonesia. That's not something that you would be expecting at the same time when there seemed to be a significant amount of Israeli or attacks on Israel, and Israel was losing legitimacy. The reality is that Israel is seen by those who want to see it, understand that Israel has the ability to bring peace. Israel left Gaza 20 years ago, so the suggestion that Israel needs to be in Gaza, can't restrain itself from going into Gaza, is kind of absurd. We tried everything when it comes to Gaza. We left 20 years ago, and this is what we got. So it makes sense that Israel is going to go in. And once there is security, there isn't a lot of interest in Israel staying in Gaza. The prime minister doesn't want it. Yes, there are some people on
there's
the
also
more extreme
there's also been
Gaza,
support for a separate Palestinian state. Eli, there's been support for a separate Palestinian state. Most countries have supported a separate Palestinian state. Where do you think that'll come up? And is Israel open to that?
There's no openness to a Palestinian state. And I think we've seen Gaza had the ability to show us what a Palestinian state could have been. Israel left. They had a border with Egypt. They could have built a Singapore. Israel was doing everything it could to make it successful. Israel did not want to be in the situation. But instead of taking that opportunity and building a state that was friendly towards Israel, that was friendly towards the world, they built an underground terror network, which is absurd. And everybody knew what was happening, maybe not exactly to the extent. So the idea that there would be another Palestinian state after we've tried those 20 years, we tried from 48 to 67. After Israel was founded, we lived in a kind of a de facto two-state solution, did bring us peace. We need to move to a situation where we're focusing on how do we achieve peace, not how do we achieve a state. And if we can achieve peace, we'll see what happens when it comes to a state. But the first thing, the priority must be achieving peace, both when it comes to Gaza and when it comes to the rest of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and frankly, the rest of the Israeli-Arab conflict.
Okay, a final word, Lev. Do you believe that Hamas will really disarm? And if not, Benjamin Netanyahu says he's going to finish the job. What does finish the job mean?
Unfortunately, I did not hear very well the question. Please repeat
Netanyahu says if Hamas does not agree, we will finish the job. What does finish the job mean?
Look, finishing the job means that we will be in Gaza until Hamas surrenders. Now, of course, it brings some kind of domestic feud in Israel, but let's hope that now that all the world is united and everybody accepts the Trump plan, including most of the Muslim countries, let's hope that Hamas says yes and not going back to the bad mistakes that Hamas made for the last 18 years.
All right. Well, Zakir, would you say that if Hamas now gives in, hopefully all right, we seem to have lost Zakir's connection there. But thank you, Lev and Ellie, for joining us on this. Well, it's a 20-point peace plan that Trump's administration has drawn up to ensure that Gaza is safe and Israel backs out and hostage exchange happens and Gaza is revived. Now, most of the Muslim Middle Eastern nations have supported this. It now remains to be seen if Hamas will agree to this plan. They have 4 days' time to revert.